Hey guys, join us tonight. We're going
Alright.
to interview Malivoire winemaker Eliza Mazzi, and I'm about to blind taste Carl.
Can't wait. I'm ready for that. I'm ready. So Malivoire, blind taste, and crafted in BC. Stay tuned. Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members, Mira Boucher, all of you across the country, Canadian wine lovers, we're on. It's Wednesday. Crack open a good bottle of Canadian wine. Unwind, sit back, and welcome to the show. I'm super thrilled. We're going to have a busy one today. Mira, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. We got two nice crisp whites in our glasses. One you poured for me, so I kind of don't know what it is. The other one I poured for you, and it is definitely a blind taste for you. So let's
well, that's funny
Canadian.
enough. You don't know what I put in your glass, and I don't know what you put in my glass. So is it like what the
blind tasting?
Yeah, hey, but that's not true. I told you what was in your glass, but maybe
well,
you
told me it's a Chardonnay, which I can tell.
Oh.
So we are going to be chatting Malivoire today, which is very exciting because even on these shows, we've been blind tasting Carl with some of the Malivoire wines. There's been some real standouts. We had mussels a couple weeks ago.
We sure did. We sure did.
And that was because of the Malivoire sparkling wines, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't usually wake up in the morning and say, oh, I feel like cooking. But if I know I have a phenomenal wine I want to taste, it will inspire me to go cooking. Like
let me tell our listener how's that work in our house. Okay, sometimes I have an idea early in the morning, babe. Tonight I would really love to open this bottle, and I can see Mira's brain starting to work right away, and she will come up, yes, and we should cook this and this and this. So that's a little bit how it works around here. So yes, absolutely.
I think, that saying, I love chopping 10 onions for French onion soup. I think no one ever said that. But if we have a freaking, highly recommended Semillon or something that we want to taste, I would be like, oh, I think, or a Chardonnay or something that we're really looking forward to, I'll be like, oh, I think I got to go chop some onions. So
I think you're bang on. Or something like, I have an outstanding 2018 Blanc de Blanc that I want to open tonight. We need to do tasting notes. And she's like, I know when I say that I'm getting a trip to the food, to the fish market or to the seafood place.
So we had opened this Malivoire Brut a few weeks ago. And holy smokes, was it a standout, right, Carl? 93 points.
That was, I love everything about that freaking wine.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal bubbly. And we had that. I don't even know if we had food with that. We were just tasting it. We were blown away. Hello, Daryl. Nice to see you. Daryl's ahead of the curve. I think he's already got some Malivoire wines heading his way. So, yeah, so we had tasted this. We knew how phenomenal it was. 93 points. Like, for those of you that don't know, 93 points for Carl is like a wine, like, I don't know, maybe 1 out of 50 wines we taste is a 93 point, maybe.
Oh, no. One every 75. I mean,
that's pretty rare. So then we are about to taste another bubbly from Eliza Mazzi at Malivoire, the 2018 Bisou Blanc de Blanc Brut that they have, right?
Traditional method, yep.
So because I knew that, I was driving by the seafood store and I literally dialed their number. I was like, do you guys have any fresh mussels? And they said, yes. So I had to pull over, and we got that. Ran home, scrubbed the beards off of them, and we had that for dinner. I even think we used the other bubbly that was like we had a little bit left for the sauce.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was
you are
phenomenal.
right.
It was
You're right. So there's
but
something's wrong with my screen here, Mira. I cannot see any of the comments, so you'll have to
oh, and there's a weird
probably.
comment from StreamYard. Must be new. Sorry. StreamYard is what we use to stream. I don't know why they're commenting on my behalf, but okay. Q Vineyards for Daryl in the glass tonight.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
2019 Pinot Noir. Where is Q Vineyards, you guys? Oh, I haven't had that winery yet.
No, we don't. We didn't. We didn't.
No.
Yeah, so here we are. There you go. My screen is fixed. That's good. Welcome, welcome, everybody. So great to see you. I want to know, where are you tuning in? I want to know also what's in your glass. Before I bring Eliza with us, sorry we're a little behind. I need to see what's in that glass. You know what? I have a pretty good idea. Because I know what's on the little table right outside our front door, my spring refrigerator sitting out there. I have a pretty good idea. I haven't tasted it. I just smell it.
Okay.
It's a wine with oak. That's a wine seems to have a tremendous texture. I freaking love the nose. It smells rich and dense.
So right out of the gate, guys, we're blind tasting, Carl. But you know what? We're going to make it very fast, right, Carl? Because Eliza Mazzi, the winemaker at Malivoire, is actually already in the green room.
There's so much vanilla bean in there. There's so much creaminess. Is it the Kern & Co. Fumé? No. Okay, so now I know. Okay, so this is a wild ferment Chardonnay.
You are
okay?
correct. Yeah.
Yes, it is a wild ferment Chardonnay. No, I don't fucking know where did you took that from, though, because I have no clue where's that from.
This is the funny thing, you guys. Every time I'm like, we've got to organize our cellar. We've got to get an app and like put everything in there so we know all what we have. Carl's like, no. I know everything that's in our cellar. But then every time I blind taste him, he has forgotten about this particular wine that we even have it. So there you go.
Wow, this wine has aged too.
A little bit. Let me see.
Yeah, I like the weight of that. Holy smokes, what is that?
All right. Well, you were totally right on unfiltered or wild ferment Chardonnay, but you're not sure where and all that, right? Price point and score.
So wild ferment Chardonnay, it's crisp though. It's nice, crisp and zippy. So cold climate. This is $35 at least. I would say I really like the texture of that. At least $35, and I give that 92 points minimum, because then you just pop and pour, right?
I did.
So if it's like the wine that I tasted this weekend, the Cold Creek 2020 Trail Estate, which was good the first night and absolutely mind-boggling the second day. This wine's gonna showcase very well the next day. But you know what? Thinking about that, no, I'm starting to make the connection between what I tasted on Friday. Weight, but crispness. There's minerality and salinity. This is a Prince Edward County Chardonnay.
There you go.
There you go. I just got it. This is freaking good. I love it. This is Mackenzie Brisbois Trail Estate. This is our Chardonnay.
You go. The process of deduction, and he got it right. It is Trail Estate. I cannot tell you if you were right on the price point because I can't see it on the website pretty easily. Maybe it's a new release. Maybe, I don't know. It's the Trail Estate Chardonnay from Prince Edward County, 2022 vintage 6. So,
Oh, that's mean is the sixth release of that specific shard, probably.
It says
Okay, well, blind taste is behind us.
Unfined, unfiltered. All right.
Yeah.
So shall we bring Eliza on?
Because I have so much that I want to talk to. It's Malivoire week this week. We have an outstanding lineup from Malivoire. I'm so freaking excited because they've been on my radar for at least 3 years. We've been in business for 5, at least 3 years. And after connecting with Shiraz in Montreal last year in November at La Grande Dégustation, I mean, we made it happen, connected with Tammy. We had a Malivoire Courtenay 2021 Gammy in our advent calendar. That's where I was like, oh yeah, I really, really freaking like it. So here we are this week. We have 10 wines. That's not true. We have 11 wines, including the bonus, because we have a Ladybug right on the can, right next to you. That it's kind of part as well. Yes. So anyway, let's bring the person behind all of these wines, Eliza Mazzi.
Hello.
Hello. How are you, Eliza?
Very well, thank you.
There you go. Second time around in the show, Eliza. That's great. Eliza, that's great to see you again. Welcome back with the Carl's Wine Club live stream. It's great to see you. How's your day?
Fantastic. I wish it was a little bit warmer, but it's Canada, right?
It sure is. So I heard that you get a little bit of flurries, a little bit of snow around the Toronto or in Ontario last couple of days. How's Niagara?
No snow for us, luckily, but it's still pretty chilly. Yeah, we got last night -4, I think we reached, which is it's not. I don't think is a normal thing for beginning of April, but you know what? I think if we don't talk about the weather, what else we're going to talk about it, right? Wine.
That's how you know you're Canadian, right? The weather somehow gets into every conversation. Yes. And that's how you really know you're a wine lover too, because you're always talking about something with the weather, right? The vintage, the weather.
Absolutely. So no, I mean, like, we're having a pretty wet fall as well. So around here is wet spring. I mean, so we're in the Okanagan and we're getting ready also. So pruning is all around. It's all in around here, and hopefully we're gonna have a better growing season that we had last year. So Eliza, welcome to the show again. We have an outstanding lineup to talk about. But before we talk about the great lineup of wine we have behind me, I want to talk a little bit about you. I want to talk a little bit about your background. Obviously, you're Italian. Where about in Italy are you from?
So I grew up in Verona, which is in the Veneto region. It's halfway between Venice and Milan for people that know exactly where Verona is. I consider it a big city, but I know it's not the most famous city. I study viticulture and enology at university in Trento with a combination actually with the Tune University. A long story short, the program is so new in Italy as well. Before it was not a university degree, it was just a high school, like part of the high school. So the university was so new that there was not enough students to fill up 3 years of courses. So 2 universities, one from Trento, one from Udine, they got together and they make it happen. So I did half of my exam in Trento and half of my exam in Udine, it was very cool because I met different people. I see different part of the regions. So that was great. And then when I graduated, pretty much I wanted to do an experience abroad, and a friend of a friend of friend just told me about Canada, because obviously as a European person, nobody knew that Canada made wine and makes new wines. So that's sort of how my journey started in Canada.
That's
I have to
incredible.
say something because I had to jump back in because I know exactly where Veneto is. Okay, I'll tell you why. When I was big like this with our second son, okay, I was like super pregnant. Carl comes home one day, and this is back in like the previous Carl's life where he was helping source $30,000 bottle of wines and working with WestJet and did not know that Canada makes amazing wine yet.
I was working with international iconic wines, so.
And he got invited by some wineries in Veneto to go there and visit and think about whether some wines from Veneto should go on board WestJet. And they offered, I think at the time they were like, oh, does your wife want to come too? We're going to fly you in a pod. And I was like, there's a time that I can't fly and go to Veneto in a pod. So that's how I know where you're from,
okay? Yes, I ended up spending 2 weeks at the Giusti family vineyard in just outside. I can't remember the village where we were. Anyway, so Mira knows exactly where Veneto is because she still remembered the flight that she missed in the pod. And that's funny because when I landed there, I didn't want to get off the plane. I'm like, wow, this is too fun. I love flying pod. I don't want to get out. Take me anywhere else in the world. I'm staying on the plane. Okay, so that's about your background. And when was it when you moved to, when you came to Canada, not move, but when you came to Canada first?
First time was 2010.
2010, first time.
I did a harvest at Jackson Triggs.
Okay.
Straight cellar hands, no word in English whatsoever. So no really clue what the other people were saying about me, but that was. And the fun fact was that I studied English in school for 8 years, plus an exam in university. So first fun fact is I almost did not graduate it because I couldn't pass the English test. Second fun fact is because we study British English. So I get off of the plane, walk through the custom, get my visa, all like struggling, but I made it. The guy from Jackson Triggs picked me up at the airport, and he said, "How's it going?" And I said, "I'm not going anywhere." So because nobody told me that "how's it going" means "how are you?" Because in school they teach you "how are you?" So it's just like, so that's how my journey started in Canada. It's like I'm not going anywhere.
That's good. I love it. Oh my God, this is too funny. That is great. So first year in 2010, you were with Jackson Triggs. I mean, it's a great way to start when we're talking about the big producer and how to understand how Canada works. I mean, it was a great start. And after that, the year after, you went with Malivoire, or you had a few other experience in between. You started Malivoire.
After the first year in Canada, I actually moved to New Zealand.
Oh,
I did
okay.
harvest there, and then the harvest after, that's when I started Malivoire. Again, was not planning A, to stay in Canada, B, to work for Malivoire. It was just a friend of a friend told me that they were looking for a person because I have my job lined up for Inniskilling because I work for Jackson Triggs.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I got recommended for sort of like, the same company, and I have my job for harvest at Inniskilling, and pretty much Shiraz interview the day before harvest. I say, "Hey, I need a person. Can you start tomorrow?" And I say, "Well, you know what? Yes, why not?"
That is awesome. That's such a great story. Hey, okay, because I know that we have, from our previous conversation and from my conversation with Shiraz all the way back in November, that you have a very deep passion for sparkling wine. And quite early, about like Shiraz at some point put all the sparkling program in your hand. There's your baby. You manned that for a while. Is it something that you had from the very beginning of your wine career at university, or it's something that you developed later down the road, the passion for sparkling wine?
Well, it kind of comes with the fact that most of my study was done in Trento, which is
That makes sense.
Trentino Alto Adige is
Yeah.
the big sparkling producer in Europe, I would say, outside the Champagne. So,
But also in Veneto, I mean, with the Prosecco region, I mean, we're right up there, right? So in Val d'Obiandini, which is right up north there as well. So that's what you were surrounded with.
pretty much, and to be honest, in Italy, it's a very common thing having a glass of sparkling. No matter what day of the week is, so it doesn't have to be a special occasion. So for me, sparkling was always on me, and when I came to Canada, specifically on when I started with Malivoire, when I kind of discovered that their major focus was Chardonnay and Pinot, and I said to Shiraz, like, why there's not a sparkling with all the Chardonnay and Pinot? For me, it was like an automatic thing. And Shiraz said, well, we never made sparkling in Malivoire. I said, well, why don't we start? And then, so 2011 was the first year that we made a base sparkling. And a year later, we bottling. And so 3 years after that would be the first release of our Bisou Brut.
Okay, now you're leading me towards a wine that I love so much. It's probably my biggest surprise of the whole lineup. That's the Bisou Brut. I give it a 93 points. But I want to come back a little bit after. Okay, we're on a good trajectory here. I really love. So 2011, you decided to start, and Shiraz almost stayed out of the sparkling program, right? Shiraz was the winemaker at that point. You became assistant winemaker, or you were just taking care of viticulture at that point?
I was actually taking care of the lab, to be honest. I was, yeah. I think Shiraz put a lot of trust in me, which was great, and probably because it's his inexperience about sparkling.
Yeah.
It probably was a combination between his knowledge and my knowledge, and kind of like put together the two and made it happen. So I have to say it was a very learning curve for both of us. The language barrier sometimes was a struggle to have a very like deep conversation about winemaking.
A technical aspect, right?
Yeah. So it works in both ways, right? Shiraz knew the vineyard, he knew the grapes, he knew the terroir, and it kind of knew what to expect from this as a still wine. I have the knowledge of freshly graduated university, deeply into sparkling, because few of my professors were really focused on sparkling because the regions where we were studying. So the two combination really made the thing happen. So yeah.
And so in Trento, Northern Italy are famous for Prosecco. Were you trained as more of a one fermentation sparkling, or you were trained, like you studied more as a champagne method, the traditional method type of sparkling, or it's something that you learned on the fly here?
No, I would say that the Prosecco is really like related to the Val d'Obiadene area. So of course it's part of my region, but because I study in Trentino, which is it's a different region, and Trento it's strictly traditional method.
Oh, so strictly traditional method.
It's Ferrari, it's Mezzocorona, those big guys that did.
Yeah. That makes sense. So you were fully trained for traditional method.
Yeah, and then I think for a studying and educational point of view, obviously there is a little bit more intriguing into the traditional method rather than Charmat. And obviously there is a lot of more components that needs to be considered when you use traditional method versus Charmat. So of course we touched those topics as well. But again, the focus on the traditional method was partially because the study was in that region. So I don't know if you guys have this feeling, but in Italy, and I could probably talk about most of Europe, we are very regional. We tend to drink and eat what the region is famous for or produce. So if someone, for example, asked me about Sicilian food or wine, unfortunately have a very little experience because, believe it or not, Italy it's still so all world that we're very close minded in the way that, okay, my region produced this type of pasta and that's the pasta that I eat. So here it's a different word, but it's this is also related to the study, as I was talking, that when you study in a specific region, you have a better chance to focus on that specific type of wine, specific variety, specific traditions.
And it's one that leads me to something very specific here, and it's such a good point, Elisa. What's very unique with Canada, it's we're not focusing on one or two or three grape varietals. You come here, and if you're from Burgundy, I mean, you work with two grapes varietal. If you're from Bordeaux, you work from a very reduced. Same thing with all of the old world. If you're from Tuscany, I mean, you're working with Sangiovese Grosso, right? I mean, and you get here to Canada, and from here in the Okanagan, or and then even in Niagara on the lake, and Niagara on the bench, I mean, then you have the full spectrum of grapes. It's not something that the old world is used to, right?
No, it's pretty unique. I think I just spoke with someone the other day that would ask me what's special about here, and I say, well, first of all, because there is no really history, I think we are creating our history in a good way because we are lucky enough to have the tools and the inspiration from the other part of the world that have some hundreds and hundreds of years of history. And then we start a little bit advanced because we can take those experience and make it on our favor. And secondly, because again, we don't have identity, I think we are creating our own identity right now. I feel when the first year that I was here, there was a lot of more trying to copy what someone else was doing or try to please the crowd that would buy California wine, Spain wine. But again, we don't have the same climate, we don't have the same terroir, we don't have the same growing season. So why try to imitate or copy something that we can't really replicate rather than take something that it's more ours and make it the true Canadian wine. So, and I'm not saying to discard everything that other people have done because obviously there is still really good wines out there and great regions. And I just think that Canada didn't have its own identity. And again, it was a lot of everything out there.
A
Now
lot of trying of everything. Like I say, let's throw a bunch of spaghetti on the wall and we'll see which part sticks, right?
Yeah, and now I think we're focusing on things that works for us. You know, like Chardonnay, Pinot, Gamay, sparkling. All I can continue to name it, but it's a focus thing. It's not like, okay, let's try to make a really high alcoholic red barrel oak and everything. It's not us. So I really love this about Canada and the Niagara region, that it's really developing its own profile of wine. And I really hope that he will shine internationally as well very soon, because I think in different blind tasting that we've done, and we threw a very famous wines or very good producer in the lineup with our wine, and not just Malivoire, but also like with the Niagara region, we definitely are out there. So I'm glad you guys are on it this, because there is great opportunity for Canadian wines to shine internationally, and when that comes, man, we're gonna come out with a sparkle everywhere.
Absolutely. Oh my God. I mean, you touched so many things that I think the exact, and I mean, let's get back a little bit about your comments about we were doing a little bit of everything. And you're right. We wrote the couple first chapter of our history that way, right? We didn't know. We planted some grapes at some places that doesn't, like, you look at it today and you're like, what the fuck were we thinking? Right? But we just didn't have the knowledge. Like in our big company, like the one you started with, like Jackson Triggs, like Peller Estate, invested a lot of money into learning about our terroir, and we need to be thankful for everything they've done at the beginning. I would say late 1990s, early 2000, leading up to my opinion, the golden age of Canadian wines, where it really started in 2010 and all the way till here. The last 15 years, I think that's where we became a little bit more of a young adult, right? We came out of the teenager phase where we changed style almost every month. And now becoming like, we know a little bit more who we are, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And also the focus on our wine. Again, I was just saying, like, there's no point to go overly oak on our wine, because we don't have the heat that California has. So we will never reach that type of alcohol. So, and that goes with the style of wine that we are looking. We're looking for freshness because we have acidity. It's one thing that a lot of places, unfortunately, they are struggling with the climate change is acidity. And lucky for us in
We have
Niagara,
it all. We have it all.
we have no problem. So we definitely are good in that way. And also that dictate the type of wine that you want to make, more fresh, more mineral,
Yeah.
more lighter versions.
Tension driven, like
Yeah.
instead of like big plush texture. I totally agree with you. And that leads me to the Beamsville Bench, where you're sitting right now, your playground, your own backyard. It's the Beamsville Bench. It's the Moira Vineyard. It's that's where you play every day. What is very unique and special of the Beamsville Bench sub appellation?
I think it's a pretty unique setup, because if any of you have been to Niagara, this bench is literally, it has one side the escarpment on the top, and the other side is Lake Ontario. So there's really just a few kilometers of land where all the grapes are actually there. So we are lucky enough to have that wind flow that avoid the winter damage, because obviously in the winter we have the lake effect, but also in the summer to avoid a lot of humidity that obviously Niagara is famous for. I never sweat so much in my life as like in the summer in Niagara.
I forgot to ask about that at the beginning. How did you adapt to the humidity? But either way.
So the flow that the escarpment and the lakes create, it really helps the to keep the vineyard healthy. The other thing is, I would say that most of the people on the bench have planted, or they figured out what kind of variety works for there. So there's not a lot of Syrah, there's not a lot of Cabernet. It's more like Pinot, Chardonnay, Gamay, Gewürztraminer, Riesling, because those are the variety that really works for our climate. But the bench never really gets that hot because there's airflow from the lake and the lake effect. So we're gaining not a lot of heat, which is it's totally okay for the vines. So the main difference between us and Niagara the Lake is really the curve that we have, literally the bench, while the Niagara Lake is very flat. The one downside about us is we'll never really be able to crop as much as as Niagara on the Lake does. But in most of the year, it's benefit us because we're saving on thinning and avoiding any breakdown that bunches touching each other could create. So it's a very unique, and I also believe strongly that the the choices of a variety that was planted in the Beamsville Bench has the most adaptable varieties. So that created some ageability on the vines as well, because obviously if the vines are not healthy, eventually you end up replacing, or if they're sensitive or something, you end up replacing. So you always started with young vines, which is, there is nothing really wrong, but young vines and old vines give you a totally different wines. So it's something really to consider, that our vines are touching almost 25 years now, some of the planting. So we really see some, as you're talking about the teenager, you really see some settling on flavor, and really important for the choice of winemaking.
And also, I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's mostly the impact of the age of the vines. It's on the complexity, right? Complexity, length, we can see it playing on the finish, how long your finish lingers. That's one of the aspects of the older vines, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a very important to, when you taste the wine, knowing if it comes from a young vineyard or a mature vineyard, because you really see the changing in the flavor. As you were mentioning, the teenagers, we are just tasting, we just 2024 we had the first crop of few of our vineyards that we planted 3 years ago, and they were great, but you can see they just want to punch all over, right? Like you cannot restrain it in a bottle almost. They were almost too powerful, versus some other wines from a 15 to 20 years vineyard, that they're consistently year after years give you that exactly flavors, that type of wine that you want to create without fighting for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They deliver exactly what you expect from that very specific terroir. And that's why, where is that bottle? Well, we have the Courtenay Gamay. When we talk about the Courtenay, I mean, it's an old block of the Mira vineyard. And I mean, it's been giving you the exact same delivery year in and year out now, because we're talking about the older block of vines, correct?
Correct. Yeah. It's again, it's another wine that it's very hard to not be consistent, because the vineyard is so consistent in quality and yield also too, right? Because again, from a young vines, you might just don't want to push it too much, so you over thin it to not stress out the vine. So obviously the concentration of the few bunches per vines versus like 20-50 bunches, it's totally different on a vine. So yeah, for sure, big difference.
No, when I tasted the new 22 Courtenay Gamay, I mean, I was like tasting it, and I tasted 20 and 21. I'm like, holy smokes, the consistency of that terroir just really reflect. And I totally find like that tension and the power of 2022 vintage. But yeah, I really saw the very block of vines coming out in that very specific bottle. It's fascinating tasting it. I don't want to jump to Gamay right away. We need to start our lineup with the sparkling. Mira already talked about the 2 Bisous that we started. Mira had a really soft affinity for the 2018 Blanc de Blanc. Mira likes wine with precision and tension, and she also likes expensive wine. So fine, but I had an outstanding soft spot for the non-vintage brut. I just thought that wine, for the price that I paid, that it's for, Holy smokes, the texture, the softness, it's almost sensual. I had such an incredible pleasure to taste that non-vintage. I want to, in a technical standpoint, what is the base vintage in the non-vintage brut for that release? Which,
So
which one of
that
the?
would be
Sorry, I put you on the spot. I should have included that in my question. It just came
I,
up.
I, would, I would say is most of it from 2020. Yeah,
Most of 2020.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because we do so the brute does 3 years on lease, so
yeah.
that would be disgorged 2 years ago. So yeah.
In your program, do you add also a couple of other years into that blend, into the non-vintage?
Yeah, so it's something that it was really important when we started the program and talking with Shiraz. I think I would like to have a vintage sparkling, but I also want to have a wine, as I was talking before, not for celebration, right? I want to have a wine that people feel free to open it on a Wednesday night with a bowl of chips, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be the champagne, but it could stand to that level. And to make that consistent, it can be vintage, because what I learned from Niagara specifically is the vintages are too different to make a wine like that consistent. So I would say that it's about 30% non-vintage
Yeah.
every year, because that's enough to make the consistency. If you have that random vintage of something, whatever happened, then you know that a 30% will bring to the sort of the standard level of what we've done so far.
The house style, right? That's how Champagne House build their reputation. It's with
Yeah.
their house style. It's not about their vintage champagne. It's about their non-vintage. That's the house style. That's what you try to recreate almost year in and year out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the fact that I'm able to make other sparkling and then be able to, like the Blanc de Blanc, to put a vintage on that I think it's also pretty unique, because then you can really show what a vintage sparkling could do. And again, the idea of the brut, it actually evolved year after year. We started at making it with most of Pinot Noir, and then year after years I kind of discovered that the Chardonnay was sort of my preference. So the brut that you're tasting is actually, it's most of Chardonnay and a very little Lamento.
Two-thirds Chardonnay, one-third Pinot, right?
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah. So, but the the problem, or the good part about sparkling, is when you create it, from the time that you create it and the time that you release this gorge and release it, it could pass a long time. So you kind of have, when you put the wine in bottle for the second fermentation, you kind of have to imagine what the potential of this wine. There is really no secret to make any adjustment at that point, right? So when you put the wine in bottle and it sit for 3 years, that it really sit for 3 years. There is no, well, maybe we just try it and do something. It's like, no, it is
It's
what it
under
is.
lock. It's
So,
under lock. I
yeah.
know.
So it is to me a fine wine, but very accessible in terms of food friendly. I would always say, like, I'm Italian, but I don't cook. So I need something simple that goes with my simple
Bullets
food. and
with my
and
bullet chips.
yeah, and I found that the brut is really, and I'm glad you enjoyed as well, because that's really make me feel that I express myself in that bottle.
I mean, as great as the Blanc de Blanc is, okay, full disclosure here, my favorite grape varietals is Chardonnay. I'm a crazy fan of Chardonnay from all over the world. I love Blanc de Blanc. I love it. but I feel like the brute just spoke to me louder. I mean, I had a tremendous connection with that wine as much as I love the 2018. I mean, these are very different wine. The Blanc has tension, precision, a definite salinity and minerality on the finish that you can. It's so fun when you just lick your lips after a sip and you can feel that salinity. I mean, this is a much more cerebral wine than the brute. And I think that's the whole purpose of these two different wines that you're making.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there is this on my end. There's two things to say that Blanc de Blanc is the first very Blanc de Blanc that I made at Malivoire. So obviously, I'm hoping that it will only get better from there, right?
I mean,
There was a point where um we were wondering how many more years on lease we should keep it, and then we disgorge a few and taste it, and I say, okay, hold on. But that Blanc de Blanc spent 5 years on lease, right? That's a long time to wait. And then I think we wanted to keep it as pure as possible. That's why there's basically nothing residual sugar, and that's why the tension might also be a little bit more upfront, because you will have, less residual sugar and way more acidity, because the just pure Chardonnay, which is normally have more acidity than Pinot. So
yeah.
obviously the two combo makes it a little bit more, I would say, austere, but also refined. That's why probably the Blanc de Blanc will need some food for enjoy another glass. The brute, to me, it could call for another glass without any food, unless you're driving.
Absolutely. And I mean, for your first one, pure Blanc de Blanc, I mean, you set the floor at 92 points. I mean, it's pretty darn good for a first iteration. It's pretty darn good. If we only go up from there, I mean, we're gonna hit some pretty high point very quickly. So no, you nailed it. Very, very good. But at the end of the day, when I was looking like the 32 versus the 45, I'm like, that brute, oh my God, thank you for bringing so much enjoyment into my tasting experience. It was fantastic. I knew I'm going to spend so much time in bubbly, talking about the bubbly. I knew it's going to happen. But anyway, I'm glad. So now I want to touch base on my favorite part of the portfolio. That's the Chardonnays. I mean, we have in the pack, we have we have actually four Chardonnays, because including the 2018 Blanc de Blanc, which is 100% Chardonnay, but we have three still Chardonnay, two from the Moira vineyard, the 21 vintage, and the brand new release of the 2022 vintage, and also the 2021 Forgotten Row, that I'm going to talk just after the Moira. Let's start with the two Moira. And I know it's late here, so I'm not going to keep you too long. I just want to touch on Chardonnay, and I'll let you go after. Moira Vineyard. For people who are not from Niagara, is it your home vineyard, or is it a vineyard close to the winery? And tell me a little bit more about your Chardonnay block and what the Chardonnay program means to you at Malivoire.
Yeah, so the Moira Vineyard is actually not at the estate, but it's really at 2 kilometers
Okay,
away.
2 kilometers. Okay.
Yeah, so it's where Martin Malivoire, the owner of Malivoire, lives. So it's his own
Okay.
vineyard, and it's named after his wife. That's why it's called Moira Vineyard. And that vineyard is strictly Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. There's nothing else planted. Um, it's a very again, pretty start to get pretty old vines. We're start to hit 20 years plus of some of those vines, which is unfortunately it show a little bit of the age in terms of yield. They start to slow down a bit. It was a vineyard that for vigor it never need fertilize, manure, any extra additions to help the vines. It was so bigger that the edging, which is mean trimming the top of the vines, were more frequent than the
Oh,
other part
wow.
of the bench. So it's a vineyard that obviously it's a lot of people wish they put their hands on. So yeah, it's a very classic winemaking. If you want to talk about a little bit of the technical, it's just
Yeah.
straight into press type of wine. So whole cluster, everything is hand pick. And I just want to touch just a little bit about the hand pick versus machine pick.
Very
Uh,
important. Thank you for bringing the point. Thank you. Please go ahead.
the one point that I wanted to make is the technology on the machine picks in the last few years, they grew so much that the machine do an amazing job. So there is really not any um, less quality when you pick by machine if you have a newer machine. But because our vineyards is so old, our posts are still wood and not steel, so we cannot pick by machine. So the downside about picking by hand is the labor. Finding laborers these days, it's very hard. And when you see the forecast and you see some rain coming and you have this pristine fruit, you want this fruit out so
Now.
fast that of course a human being can only move so much. I can only work during the light time. That's the other thing, right? If we were able to pick by machine, it would be a tool that I would definitely would like to consider. We are transforming, or not transforming, changing some of our trellis and our part of the states into steel posts. So we are able, if we want to choose to pick by machine, we have the ability to do it. And I was really advocate to this because you see a lot of posts on Instagram or review that say, "Oh, we pick by hands because it's a better quality." And I would say yes. 10 years ago, I would totally agree. The machine was just pounding through the vineyard, just shaking the mat of this vine. Pieces of trunks were coming out, and now this technology is just have this pristine whole all berries in the bin. So perfect. You don't have to waste time destemming if you're destemming. So anyway, long story short, to say that this vineyard is all picked by hand because we are forced, but also because it's a choice of whole cluster pressing, which is it's very important for us to sort of preserve some of the um, volatile flavor
Yeah.
that when you pick by machine, some delicate varieties can lose it pretty fast. So when we were able to put whole cluster in the press, then when you sort of keep some of those flavor all in the fruit. So and then all these wines, the two Moiras are both fermented in barrels. So all barrels were kind of get away, and I was talking at the beginning, we're kind of got away from the big new oak type of flavor. We like to show that our wines have a lot of fruit. We don't need to cover with wood. We're very light on alcohol. They're barely 12 and a half. And so that really showed the fruit, the intensity, and the oak in the past was sort of like overwhelm the wine, so we kind of got away from that, and now we're just using neutral oak, and it's all French. So yeah, and then it's been about like 9 to 10 months in barrel, and then it's really something that we again evolve with the last few years, that there's no reason to leave a wine aging a long time. This wine has the intensity in their core, as I said. They don't need time to reveal. They're ready to spring. But it's also a wine that had a lot of ageability. We taste some really great old Moira Chardonnay, and the vineyard it really show again the consistency.
That's that's awesome. And you talk about the rain and sending the crew right away. You want and I think that's what you experienced in 2021 versus 2022. We had two very different vintage here. 21 got interrupted, the growing season got interrupted with some rain. We had to rush and pick the fruit, while 2022 was a little bit different. And I'm hearing from some of the winemakers that 22 might be one of the very rock star vintage that you guys had on the bench
until 2024.
Until 2024. There you go. I love it.
No, it's true. It's true. I think every winemaker still have nightmares about 2021. Unfortunately, it was very when you spend 6 months growing this fruit, and then the week that they're ready to pick, it starts to rain, your whole body just say like, what?
Why?
And just it was. But I have to say that again, I think we manage very well. The fact that we sort of pick earlier in the season, we grow varieties that are early ripening, so we cannot avoid that. But there is definitely less intensity on 2021 compared to 2022, which is have a really long growing season, a very hot summer, a very easy fall. So you will always find a very big difference between 2021 and 2022 vintage, and also big difference from 2020 to 2021. Because again, 2020 was dry, hot, kind of like almost too hot for Niagara, which is we didn't even know what to do with
that.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with that child?
And then you get to 2021, then unfortunately it got a lot of rain. But again, I think all our Chardonnay specifically, we were able to pick almost before the big storm came. So as a winemaker, when you remember all these nightmares of days of fog and nothing else, and then you taste the wine, it's like, well,
yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty darn good. And let's remind people though that before the rain hit, the numbers were almost on par with 2020. It was coming. 21 was coming out as a back-to-back incredible vintage, right? So, I mean, it's not like if the whole growing season was awful. I mean, we had...
And then I think that's the reason why the wines are actually turned out very well.
Exactly. They had a great...
Yeah, it wasn't a very bad season. It was just, unfortunately, the picking time was bad. So obviously we were dealing with a lot of disease pressure. And at that point, there's nothing really you can do because... it's time to pick, right? So you can't spray, you can't just do anything. So, but again, overall, the wines really show a little bit of more light, but still very focused. I really enjoy sometimes the 2021 because they're, I would say, almost easier to drink than a 2020, which is, I feel like could put it down for another 10 years. And 2021, I would say that if you guys want to open it, there is nothing wrong with opening a 2021 right now.
And Mother Nature does it very well because 22 is very dense and powerful, super energetic vintage that can sit for a while. So now why don't enjoy your 21 while your 2022 is resting well on the shelf? I mean, that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I'm not finishing up 2021 vintage until we talk about my favorite wine of the whole lineup. It's the Forgotten Row. It's probably my top 21 Chardonnay that I have from Niagara. Jesus Mary, that I love that wine. I loved it. We were, Mira and I, on a little getaway with the kids down at one of the resort down south, and I brought the 3 Chardonnay.
Thanks to Dylan.
Yes, thanks to Dylan Warfeld, one of our members who he offered us one of his condo down south in the south of the Okanagan. We taste these 3 wines, but the Forgotten Road that night stole my heart. Holy jeezy moly. 93 points, Carl's Wine Club. The extra hang time, or I know it's a special process. Well, special process. You guys have left a few rows. Can you tell me a little bit where the names come from and what's the special process that you guys did with that wine?
Yeah, so if we want to start from the beginning, the name is originated by the fact that we literally forgot a row. Long story short, I think it was a long day. The guys were picking until 6 o'clock. We're almost there. Anyway, we were rushing because the rain was coming, and that was 2011, I believe. Or 12, one of the two. And then so we thought we pick it all. The rain hit. There was 3 days of raining. So moving on, we're picking Gamay next. So nobody thought about that there was a row left because we didn't get to it. And so the vineyard manager walked to the vineyard and called us and say, there's more Chardonnay coming. I say, what? No, there's not. So they got this row that pretty much was not even filling a press. So we end up pressing, and it's like, okay, then what are we gonna do now? We fill all the barrels because we thought that was the end of it. We fill our tank because we thought it was the end. We move on to the reds, and so it just happened that one of the other winery had these barrels available for us to buy it, but it was an American oak. So we said, you know what? Let's put in there. We'll deal with that later. It's 1 barrel. We'll forget. We actually forget again, and this wine just stayed there, and we didn't know what to do. It didn't fit in any other program. So one day we said, well, do you know what? What about bottling like that? And that's sort of what the original thing started. So the first Forgotten Row, it was I don't want to say undrinkable, because at the end it turned out very well, but it was so different from all our Chardonnay that no one was like, how are we going to sell this? And people loved it because the difference that this wine made, obviously, because it was longer in the vineyard, has more ripeness and more alcohol, has 100% new oak. It was American oak. We would never put Chardonnay in American oak. It turns out to be one of the favorite Chardonnay from our customers. So obviously we weren't planning to do it again. And when we sold out, the people in retail said, well, when is the next vintage coming? I said, I don't know. And so that's how it started. And then the wine evolved in more thinking winemaking. So we don't use American oak anymore. We use French oak. We still let hang it longer, but we have a control on picking.
It's not forgotten. It's just left behind for a bit.
Yeah, and the concentration of the new oak, it's planted, and also this wine spent almost 12 months in the new oak, and then we take it off and put it in an older barrel for another 9 months. So actually, that new oak had the time to integrate more, because you move it from the new oak into older oak, and the wine's still breeding, they're still evolving, but obviously doesn't absorb all the oak from the new barrel. So now, to me, it's a thoughtful wine. It's still called Forgotten because it has this lovely story. But I think is that for me, the idea to be in control makes a better wine.
And I mean, like, for the way we tasted it, Eliza, I mean, it really stood out among, like, you got two Moira, which is like the process is different. And I tasted that one. I'm like, whoa, okay, wow. So that really stood out to me. 93 points. Congrats, you're working with Chardonnay like a freaking master. I really like the work I know it's not just you as a winemaker, it's also the vineyard, the reflection of the dirt. But wow, your Chardonnays are standout. I'm extending way too long right now. We can talk for another half an hour. I won't do that to you. I mean, come on, it's been over an hour that you're with me. You've been so generous of your time. Thank you. But just before we go, we have two cases of Motiar 2023 Pinot Noir that Tammy allowed us to sell. So 24 bottles of that little piece of land. I think it's Shiraz, the general manager the original winemaker at Malivoire for a long time. This is his own farm. What's special with Shiraz Vineyard?
So this is the Motiar Pinot. That's what you say?
Yeah, the Motiar Pinot
Yeah.
2023.
So again, it's funny because the winery is in the middle and the Motiar vineyard it's in one side, the Motiar is the other side, so it's about again 2 kilometers apart from the winery. Again, another vineyard that it's only planted with Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Well, there's a little bit of Melon, but it's so little. Most of it's Chardonnay and Pinot. And again, because it's a very steep slope of the bench, it really have the flow of the between the escarpment and the lake. And then I think for some reason that vineyard has a very unique flavors. So the Chardonnay and the Pinot always stand out when we do a lineup of our Chardonnay. It's not intentionally that we're making every year the Motiar Chardonnay and the Motiar Pinot. It just happened that it ended up being one of our favorite. It has that salinity that none other vineyard has it. The Pinot has usually a little bit more tannin, but most of the time we leave the Pinot do wild fermentation just to express the truly of the vineyard. So there is that wild part that I think it plays a really good role on the on the wines. And again, I think is because it's its own unique, almost sub territory on his own little farm that it really makes it unique. So every year we're really impressed about it.
And I mean, that wine won gold at the National Wine Award in 2021. And I put it in my notes that I'm predicting that vintage will win gold as well. And I mark my word, after I tasted it, I always taste, rate the wine, put my score down, and then when I'm done the whole thing, I just go double check what others have done in the past. And that's why I noticed. I said, "Oh, I win." So I went back to my note and I said, "You know what? I predict that this year this wine will win gold. Gold. That's how good I think of that wine. I give it a 92 plus. It's a stunning Pinot Noir. You did a great job with the fruits. Thank you, Eliza. I so greatly appreciate your time. And we're going to bring a group of our members to you in June to do a little bit of a winery touring with you guys after our Pan Canadian Masterclass.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I already talked to Tammy about it. So
I have a little challenge. You explained this, Elisa, at the beginning, but one of your friends is actually on Instagram right now. First Fruit Wine on Instagram. She says, "I'm a friend of Elisa's. I would love to hear why she's so drawn to bubbly." You explained this at the start. Is it, in a nutshell, you grew up? Tell us, like, little challenge at the end. In a nutshell, what drew you to sparkling?
Yeah, well, if it was for me, that's my favorite wine, right? Like I could drink just bubble. I would only make bubble if it was for me. But I think my background, the fact that I study in Trentino, where traditional method it's part of the culture, the fact that Niagara grow exceptional Chardonnay and Pinot, that we have such a unique acidity that so far we're probably one of the few country in the world that can keep say that we have a lot of acidity in our wine. It just make no brain to me to make bubbles. Again, when I was talking with Carl about the idea of making the brut is to really have a wine that can be enjoying as per the Wednesday wine or the Thursday or the
Like,
Thursday,
pretty
Friday,
much
Saturday
goes
wine.
with everything, right? It goes with everything.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
that's sort of the idea of
I love
the
it.
bubbling.
I love it.
Hey,
And
by
there's
the
so
way,
many more great wines we tasted. Yes.
talking about the acidity and unique of the Niagara, have you tasted some of the Nova Scotia sparkling, Elisa? Yeah,
Yeah.
eh? Yeah, some fantastic stuff coming out of Nova Scotia as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We should share a bottle of Benjamin Bridge
I was going to
sparkling
say,
together.
if Benjamin Bridge comes to the Pan Canadian, which, you know, they said yes a little while ago, we'll have to 100% confirm very soon. If he's going to be on that tour when we visit your winery, we got to make sure he brings one of his favorite sparklings for you to try
Yeah,
with yours. Yes, that would be fun.
Elisa, it's time to go to bed. I'm so sorry for keeping you that long. I apologize.
Thank
I owe
you.
you a nice bottle of BC sparkling or a nice bottle of BC Chardonnay. As a big thank you for spending over an hour with us. Thank you so very much.
it was my pleasure.
Thank you. You rock. You're the best. Thank you so
Yes,
much. And
that
we'll
was
see you in
awesome.
June.
For sure.
Very
Bye,
soon.
everyone.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Thank you. Thank you. This is Eliza Mazzi, winemaker at Malivoire Estate on the Beamsville Bench. How do you feel, Mira? That's every time, eh? We
Yes.
finish
Every
an
time you're
interview
such a
like
good
that, and we're
story.
like, oh, it feels so good.
I
I
love
mean, what a great freaking interview. She's so warm and outstanding. Oh, I love talking to her.
I so agree. That was so awesome. Love it.
Yeah. That
And I love
Forgotten
all your
Row, that Forgotten Row story is freaking brilliant.
Well, isn't
Holy
that
shit.
funny? Because often, like, I think that's exactly how wine started. Like, someone left some grapes in the sun one day, and the
Yeah.
next day they came back and they were like, this tastes kind of interesting. It's not like it was yesterday, this grape juice. And that's probably how wine itself got started, right? So it's
Hey,
all about.
Mira, I can't see the comments. How about before we go, how about you tell me a little bit, read us a little bit about the comments? I can't see anything here. So,
Oh, yeah, no, it was just great. People just chiming in about the history. Lorna loves bubbly any night of the week, so she's kind of like me, you know.
absolutely.
And Daryl was sold on the Forgotten Row when he learned it has 16% French new oak. We know how much Daryl likes his new oak.
Yeah, and
then
I think
he panicked a little. Daryl panicked a little when we started talking about the American oak, but don't worry, that was just in that very first one where they didn't even have a barrel to put it in because it was the Forgotten Row for real. But now they are much more intentional, and it includes new oak.
French.
New French oak. Yes.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to say, speaking of Chardonnay, I'm having something here, and I want to show.
Yes,
How do you like that?
I love
That's
it.
what's in your glass.
Okay, so they're starting to disappear. You can see which one I liked the most, but this one I haven't tasted in a while. So this is the one you poured for me from the Garnet Valley.
Yeah. But there's also a fact that, and it's just purely in terms of quantity, that the other wine is smaller. So probably less quantity in the smaller glass, which is already empty. But
The smaller glass is the Trail Estate one that I blind tasted Carl on. This bigger one, it's changed a lot in the last hour. We pop and poured it. And it is really just starting to open up now. So that's really cool because it tells me it's one of these cooler climate wines that needs a little time to cellar maybe or open up, but it's amazing.
That's like, pay attention on the finish.
Yes, it has a super long finish.
That finish of that wine is really freaking crazy. It lingers. It's like, and I mean, I'm curious to see how much oak. There's a very good French oak up front coming out, that little toasty oak that I really like. So
this is a new wine region. If you guys ever come out to the Okanagan, very few people know about this, but it is new, up and coming, and really good wines out there, called Garnet Valley Ranch, brand new appellation as well.
But
GI.
the Garnet Valley Ranch is the winery, and the Garnet Valley is the little sub-region here in Summerland, right up the hill, 15 minutes from here. Mira and I had the chance to go down there a few times. How it feels like we're like 2 hours away from home, right? When we get in there.
Yeah, it's very mountainy, but yeah, it's very interesting. So you can see in the central Okanagan on this map, we're straight across from the Naramata Bench in Summerland. And then there's this little yellow dot, like far inland from the lake there, under the sign that says Summerland, that's Prairie Valley. So it's a good 15, 20-minute drive from anything. It's kind of in the middle of seemingly nowhere. And there's just vast open spaces and mountains all around you. And it's very pretty. And there's now a few wineries that are opening tasting rooms out there and making wines out there. This is one, Solvero, right? They've been doing this.
No, this is not Solvero.
Oh, sorry.
It's Garnet Valley Ranch.
Oh, so they're like neighbors.
They're neighbors, but they're literally neighbors. Literally, yes. They're neighbors. And in the Garnet Valley, because that sub-region was, they just discover this area like 7 years ago. So now the vineyards are, I think they've been planted 5 or 6 years ago. And Garnet Valley Ranch. So why I'm tasting that tonight, because I'm finalizing my lineup for the Pan-Canadian Masterclass that will be held at Siouan Staff in Niagara on June 21st. And I want to do a special Chardonnay segment during that. Oh, surprise, surprise, eh? I want to do 3 Chardonnays side by side. And now I'm finalizing my lineup. There's going to be a Chardonnay from Niagara, a Chardonnay from Prince Edward County, and a Chardonnay from the Okanagan. And I was thinking that the Garnet Valley Chardonnay should be really, really on par with what we're trying to do here. And that 2022 here, I think will fit the bills really, really well. I really like that. It's well balanced, not too much alcohol. The oak is there, not overpowering. The finish describe the terroir of that new upcoming growing region so well. So I'm super thrilled. So yeah, this is the Garnet Valley Ranch Chardonnay 2022. Really cool that we had it beside your blind taste, and that wasn't planned. Your blind taste wine was from Prince Edward County, so it might be just a little preview of what we're going to have at the Pan-Canadian here. So a fun night in front of us.
Absolutely. Stacy and Jeff want to know if we're up to 60 wines that we'll taste together during the Pan-Canadian. It'll be like, okay, we have 30 seconds for this one, 30 seconds for this one. It's kind of like being at Thomas Batchelor's for half an hour. No, I don't think it'll be 60 for the actual Pan-Canadian, because we
for the main event.
Winemakers. But yeah, it's getting up there.
It's getting up there.
12, but I think it'll be more than 12 for sure.
Oh yeah, it will be more than 12. I can tell you. That's for sure. That's for sure. I just also secured a 3rd Syrah, just so you know. There's going to be a segment of 3 Syrah as well. So a Syrah from Lake Erie North Shore, a Syrah from Niagara on the Lake, and a Syrah from the Similkameen Valley. So we are going to have a full segment on Niagara, a full segment on Chardonnay, a full segment on Syrah as well. So that will be really, really cool. Just so you know, it's Stratus. Stratus will be featuring their 2020 Syrah at the Pan-Canadian. Really cool. Dean Stoico will be on site to talk about it. I can't wait. Yeah, and stay tuned. Probably next Wednesday, I'm going to bring a special guest in the show, and we're going to announce a co-host for the Pan-Canadian. I keep it secret. I'll keep it secret until then. And I'm going to bring him live, and we're going to do a big announcement on Wednesday. How about that, Mira? Sorry, I just thought, it's just an idea I just had.
Hopefully he's available. But yes. And
He will be. He's going to make himself available.
He or she, I mean, we don't know.
Oh, right? Yeah. I hope it's still a he, but anyway.
Can always change too. It's, yeah.
No.
So people are saying how many wines. So I think the Pan Canadian tasting itself, we're going for about 4.5 hours with the
16.
break.
16.
We're at about 16 for the Pan Canadian itself. And then, and you know what? We've decided on the format that we're going to do 2 or 3 winemakers at a time. So flights, as opposed to trying to get through all the whites at once and all the reds at once with everyone up talking at the same time. It's, we wouldn't be out of there in 4 hours. We'd be out of there in like 15 hours or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it'll be 2 or 3 winemakers at a time talking. And then, following the Pan Canadian, we do have the official dinner. So far, about half, maybe more, will stay for the dinner. And there will be more interesting special ones at the dinner. And then if you do the whole weekend, we have 4 spots left for the whole weekend, I believe. The VIP All Access Pass. And if you do that one, I think that'll be more than 100 plus whatever we do back at the clubhouse. So.
Yeah, at the clubhouse. I know it's for the people who were part of the Bachelor Vineyard tour. They know how many wines we're tasting at the clubhouse. The couple nights that we're all getting together. The number, like I think one night we tasted over 30 different wines at the clubhouse.
So you either have to get really good at spitting into your spit mug, or you have to be staying overnight at the clubhouse. But yeah, a lot of exploring and discovering, and a lot of fun.
Hey, before we end that show, I mean, it feels like we started yesterday, but I mean, what a great show. I want to say, I want to talk about, okay. Let's close up the Malivoire, okay? Because it's Malivoire week this week. Until Sunday, we're featuring that iconic iconic producer of the Beamsville Bench, founded by Martin Malivoire in 1996, run by Shiraz Motiar, which is a freaking legend on the Beamsville Bench, and they have an outstanding lineup of wine. This winery has been under my radars for at least 3 years, and I'm so glad that we finally have it going here in the club. There's 3 Chardonnays, 2 bubbly, 2 Gamay, and an outstanding Pinot Noir. There's also, we forgot to talk about it, but there's a Old Vine Foch in the pack as well.
We don't normally feature any hybrids, and we haven't even tasted a whole lot of Foch, but this Foch, that we tasted 2 vintages, and then Carl chose one of them to go in the pack, and I found it to be fantastic value.
Yeah. $25 for $25. Fantastic wine. These wines have complete, especially that wine. It's old vines. It's a vines planted in 96. It was one of the original vineyard when they planted. So, I mean, you can tell the wines are deep. The wines are intriguing. The wines are fun to taste. And that Old Vine Foch absolutely made me happy tasting it. So, yeah.
Daryl would like 4 weeks of Cab Franc when he's back from Japan. Oh no, while he's
in Japan, I guess, right? Yeah, totally. So yeah, I wanted to close that out, and we have outstanding shipping price with Malivoire. And if you're in Quebec, si vous êtes au Québec et vous avez visité l'Ontario, la vallée du Niagara dernièrement ou dans les dernières années, vous connaissez Malivoire. Bon, Malivoire, normalement, n'envoie pas le vin au Québec dû aux restrictions, puis les regulations avec la SAQ, puis toute la patente. Donc, c'est une des opportunités assez uniques d'être capable d'avoir vos vins de Malivoire livrés à votre porte. On a un petit accord. on the side. Cet agreement
The
avec eux
label
autres.
will come from Carl Boucher, your personal shopper.
That might not gonna come peut-être ça viendra pas de Malivoire, ça va venir de Carl ou quelque chose de même, mais en tout cas, l'offre est disponible pour les résidents du Québec aussi. Les résidents de l'Alberta, les résidents du Québec, donc on l'ouvre à tout le monde. So it's a very unique opportunity. So Malivoire usually don't ship everywhere in the country, but we do this week. A sweet offer. I really like it. There's 293 points wine in there, 5 wines over 92 and more. So outstanding feature, great diversity of wines, which represent very well the Beamsville Bench in Niagara. So that's just to close the segment on Malivoire. Super exciting. And before we go, I wanted to talk about Saturday, Mira.
Yes.
Yes.
Saturday.
What's happening on Saturday?
Super interesting, especially in these interesting times we're living in, you know, with this whole trade issue that's come up.
All the wines are downstairs.
Oh, okay. Well, let me show you. On Saturday, we are going to be tasting what started as a couple dozen, but it sounds like it's now up to 50 or 60 wines.
No, not that much. Not that many. I probably 40, 45.
Okay, a mini tasting. With how many winemakers interviewed?
5, 6, 5, I think.
Okay, and what we're talking about is wines that were made in BC from A to Z, just like the incredible local wines we love. Terroir-driven wines, high-quality wines, but the grapes came from the United States or sometimes other places. So very interesting because in 2024, BC lost sort of 85% of their
95%, Mira.
95%. And many of the vines died. We had 56 hours in a deep freeze. Almost nothing survived. So so they had to do something if they wanted to stay open for the next couple of years where they won't be able to make more wine from BC grapes. Some wineries were lucky, yes, or they had enough wine stored up that they decided they didn't need to do that. But a lot of wineries said, no, we won't be able to survive unless we make some wine from grapes from somewhere else. And many of them went an hour south, 2 hours south to Washington State. They farmed a lot of the grapes themselves. There's amazing stories with this. I think it's a really positive thing, actually, given the tensions we're seeing right now.
I totally agree. I mean, and there's so much negativity right now around our political situation, around the tariffs, around there's so many things out there right now. And what we try to do here, because we got so many questions, the wineries are receiving so many questions, is I want to show people that the wines are good. we want to tell the stories that it was an opportunity for winemakers to work with grapes that they don't usually grow here. Because first and foremost, they didn't have grapes that in 24. They didn't have any. You cannot make wine without grapes. And for small producers,
sometimes you have enough backstock of reds, right, that you can skip a vintage for reds because you age the reds before you release them, so you can kind of manage that. But rosés, white wines, bubbly, like a lot of those sell out every season. And so what gets tasted in those tasting rooms? It's those wines, and they wouldn't even be able to open the tasting room if they didn't have those. So for most
of them, it was a survival option. There was not like, oh, should we not? No, there was no choice. The bank called and say it's not an option to say no.
Yeah, you can't just shut down for 2 years, shut down your tasting room. You got to do something. So this was and the reason, like, we tried to hook up BC winemakers with Ontario winemakers, and some of them did that. Some of them flew their crew out to Ontario during harvest and helped harvest wines in Ontario and ship the juice back here. But let's be realistic. It's much easier to just drive a couple hours down and do that several times to be really involved with the process. They wanted to keep their teams employed. That was a really big thing we kept hearing. They didn't want to just lay off the harvest staff, lay off the cellar hands, lay off all these people. So they wanted to keep everyone employed. And that's part of that was being able to bring in fresh grapes within hours of them being picked.
And not only that, the house wanted to make wines like they usually do. I mean, the winemaker wants to make wine. The winemaker does not want to have someone to make the wines from him and put it in bottles. So the harvest, most of them harvest, like were part of the selection of the vineyard, met with other farmers down there, rent couple blocks of their vineyard, manage the vineyard, call the pig date, rent refrigerated truck, put the grape in the truck, bring the truck, and have another crew waiting at the winery, and they make the wine just like they would usually do. So they kind of make a year where they should not make wines more of a normal year. The only problem with the political situation right now, it's from the US. And I understand that most of Canadian wants to support Canadian, and there's that big war tariff, that big hatred for Donald Trump and all of that. But this is beyond that. Everything the decision was made way before the whole thing unfolded. So the poor wineries were now, and we're seeing contract. I talked to one person this afternoon where a hotel chain here canceled 2 pallets of wines because they just heard that the grape were purchased from Washington State. And the poor producer is stuck with 95 cases of wine, which were reserved for that retailer. And now he said, I'm not going to take it anymore.
Which is really sad, because it's actually hurting exactly who they think they're trying to help by doing that.
Exactly. So. And then let's keep in mind, these wines were made by BC people with their crew, with wineries. So that keeps the economy going. So anyway, we want to bring the positive out of that disastrous vintage. And I want to tell our members that BC wines will be delicious. We're going to see a bunch of Chenin Blanc. We're going to see some Saint-Saul. We're going to see a bunch of Grenache. We're going to see a ton of Sauvignon Blanc. And think that I am super excited. I'm going to have 45 wines or so to take some Albarino, where there's only 1 or 2 producer who does Albarino here. Now there's exciting
and it's
stuff.
Cool too with the Albarino, because the ones who like Terra Vista, they specialize in Albarino and rare varietals. Now we have the option to taste the 100% BC grape versions made by the same winemaker, and then 1 or 2 or 3 American versions of the same varietal by the same winemaker. It's actually fascinating as a wine.
It is fascinating, and there's nothing about politics out there. It's all about wines, winemaking, and grape source. I mean, get our head out of our ass and let's just keep supporting. It frustrates me.
And having fun.
It frustrates me when people will make a decision. No, I'm not going to buy these wines. And I talked with a couple of winery owners where some of their wine club members have canceled their membership to retaliate for the decision. I mean, how lunatic. Anyway,
it was made like 2 years ago. Like it was
not 2 years ago. It was made last year. But I mean,
yeah.
So it's going to be exciting. And we want, Mira and I, to taste these wines live with you. You're going to hear the story for some of the winemakers. And it's going to be an interesting evening. So Saturday, from 4 to 7-ish, I don't know when it might be longer, Pacific time. So out east, our show is going to start at 7. I don't know what time it's going to finish, but we're going to have an outstanding night. We're going to have some winemakers. We're going to come live as well. We'll be here backstage, a little bit like we do our varietal marathon. So if you're intrigued, if you want to hear more about it, just tune in. And if you're a winery listening tonight and you're in BC and you haven't you haven't heard about it, feel free. Let me know. Send me a note. I'm picking up samples tomorrow. I can include you in our tasting as well. But we have a fun lineup. Hester Creek, Fort Barons, Blasted Church, Black Market, Code, Solvero, Lunescence, Tinhorn Creek, Terra Vista, Tightrope. Riverstone, Clos du Soleil. There's many wineries who will confirm. So that's going to be exciting. I can't wait to taste some Grenache Rosé, some Saint-Saul Rosé, some different styles of Chenin Blanc, and boatload of Pinot Gris, I guess. So, yeah.
That'll be great. Very fun. Okay. Well, I cannot wait, you guys, to see what our next one. So much going on. Those tickets for the Pan Canadian are going. So if you're thinking of coming and you haven't got your tickets yet, please do keep in mind, if you're a VIP Unlimited member, you can still get 25% off right now, which is huge. Like,
do you? Holy smokes, an extra deal?
Yeah, it pays for your whole membership if you do all the events at the Pan Canadian.
Absolutely. So, absolutely.
So yeah, it'll be great. It'll be lots of fun. Yes, Elaine, I totally agree. There's only a couple producers making the Saint-Saul Rosé in BC right now, and they've been amazing. And now we get to taste multiple versions of it. I mean, some of our very favorite winemakers have like 7 or 8 variations of wines from Washington State, right?
Yeah, they do it in extra small batch. They just like, okay, you're coming out of a disastrous, like something that Mother Nature never did to you. And you have an opportunity to buy grapes that you've never worked before. So some people, and I can't wait for you guys to listen to Rob Amersley at Black Market Wine Company to tell his story. Rob have decided to make 12 different wines in small, tiny batch. He said, fuck it. If I can't get my own grape because everything died, I'm going to experiment and do some cool stuff that I always dreamed to do.
And here's the interesting thing, okay, that I didn't even think about till now. The people who are experimenting with different varietals further south, I bet a lot of them are actually thinking, I have to replant certain vineyards still. They might be looking to test out those varietals and see what they can do with them and replant here with different things. So we might end up with a whole different set of varietals.
But there's a thing though with the government replant program. Though the government have there's a very specific grape varietals that they're subsidizing. So the list.
They know so much as farmers, those bureaucrats. But yes.
Yeah, I know. It feels like because they're putting some money. They're giving out some of our money back to the farmers, but they're deciding what to do with it. So anyway, let's keep politics out of it. It's a promise that I made myself that I'm not going to touch that. But yeah, intriguing, interesting, and exciting.
Very much.
That's how I will describe our Saturday night. And I can't wait. Tune in if you feel like it. It will be a fun show. So,
thank
anything
you,
else on your side, Mira?
That's it. It was great to see you. We'll
Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members. See you next time.
Woohoo!